asking for that. It is June 14th. This is our test review. And the question was, we want to go over one of the homework problems first. And let's look at the online textbook. And then we're going to go to the end of chapter homework. And I'm going to guess it's an exercise. This, all right. So the homework, I'm just going to go to the end ones. Seven, does this look familiar? Determine the outstanding checks. Can you see it? Maybe it's not showing. No,
Oh yeah, it's that one.
Okay.
I didn't realize I was on mute.
All right. So let's read the prompt. April 30, the bank reconciliation of Back 40 Company shows 3 outstanding checks. The bank statement. So something to keep in mind here is you've got the bank books, what goes through the bank. I don't know if you guys can see this from across the room, and books. And we use this term books a lot, and essentially it means the company's accounting records. So that from what you guys have all learned, you've learned that we do journal entries, T accounts, then we make a trial balance, then we make our statements. All of that is the company books. And so the company is tracking here. The company is tracking any checks that they write to pay who? Suppliers or employees for payroll. Once somebody gets paid, let's say we pay Home Depot for something, I can't imagine what, but maybe some piece of furniture or something. Home Depot takes the check and deposits it in the bank, and there may be some timing issues with that. So it doesn't clear the company's own bank account for a couple of days. So in that intermediate time, the company has deducted that check from their books, but it's still outstanding. It hasn't cleared the bank yet, okay? So what they're saying is we have 3 outstanding checks, number 254, 255, and 257. Okay. All right, the bank statement. Now we're looking at the May bank statement. Somebody else in the room. Now we're looking at the May bank statement, and they're saying, here's the checks that were issued in May, and here's the May cash journal, payments journal. So that language, the cash payments journal, I mean, that's kind of new language with this chapter. Essentially, it just means give us a list of the checks that the company has written. That's all that means. Okay. So the bank is saying, hey, this is what cleared the bank this month. And down here, the company's saying, hey, I guess they're not saying, hey, I said, hey. The company is saying, these are the checks we wrote in the month of May. And you can see the dates there, May 2nd, May 5th, and so on, 258. And they're all sequential, right? That's how you issue checks. And that's part of that documentation internal control, okay? But the bank's going to list the checks in chronological order, but there are going to be gaps based on these timing issues, all right? So the question is, all they're asking for is list the outstanding checks as of May 31st, okay? So I always tell students, go to the prompt and highlight or underline what the actual question is. So they want to know what the outstanding checks are. And so it's helpful to know what the outstanding checks were at the beginning of the month, so we can see if they cleared. So as of April 30th, these 3 checks were outstanding, but we can see 254 cleared, so it's not outstanding anymore. We can see 255 did not clear. Okay, 255, I don't see it on the bank statement unless you guys do. All right. So I'm thinking that did not clear, and 257, it did clear. And then what I want you guys also to do, always, always make sure that the dollar amounts are the same on the bank statement that they are on the company books. So we don't have the list from April of the checks written, but we know these 3 checks were outstanding. So when we reconcile them to the bank statement for May, we just want to do that double check that they went through at the same amount, 650 and 410. Okay, so those are good. They're clear. They are not outstanding. So we know check 255 is still outstanding. And then we're going to go down and reconcile all the checks that were issued here. 258, good. 259, good. 260, good. 263. Oops, we've got a gap here. Nope, we've got 261 is not cleared. You can see that? Okay. 261 has not cleared. You can see the gap, and it's in 262, 750, 263, 480, and check 264 is not listed here. So that's also outstanding. So how many checks are outstanding? Direct message me. How many checks are outstanding as of the end of the month? As of the end of May. Okay. So send me a quick direct message. Dylan, you are correct. Anybody else? Arena, you are correct. So we know it's check 261 and 264, and it's also this 255. Now I want to ask you guys, has anybody ever received a check from anybody, particularly for a holiday gift or for graduation? Has anybody ever gotten a check in the mail? And maybe that's just old fashioned, but my kids did. Has any of you ever received a check as a present from somebody? Well, you graduated, we're going to write you $100 check. Well, I guess you guys, maybe you haven't graduated, but well, I will tell you what happens. When you get a check in the mail, often people do not want to cash it because they don't want to spend it right away. And they're afraid if they cash it, they will spend it right away. So sometimes people hold on to checks for too long. So don't do that. Cash your check if you want to not put it in your bank account, take cash home and put it in a special drawer. But as long as you don't cash that check, it is outstanding. Okay. All right. So now,
One of the main things on this one
go ahead.
is like in the homework, like it put them in a weird order. Like it had me put like 261 first, then 255, then 264.
Are you talking about the answer?
Yeah.
What was the order? 261, then 265,
Then 255, then
That's weird. I
264.
wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I don't know. Yeah.
Let's
But I see why it was those specific ones now.
okay. So
It's just what messed me up, I think, is like the bank statement numbers being out of order, so I didn't see some of them
yes,
were on there.
and typically, and they're not showing you all the information, but they're putting them in chronological order, not in check number order. And
Yeah.
if you go online to your own bank account, you can see them. You can sort them any way you want. But it's the bank statements usually go in chronological order. All right. All right. Yelena has a question. Number 35. What can you be more specific? Number 35?
Yes, for number 35.
On the homework? What are you talking about? Can you be more specific?
No, not homework on the practice final packet, number 30.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's pull that up. Let's do that. Mm, nine.
Basically, we're preparing a bank reconciliation
Mhm.
and just, it doesn't make sense for me why we're subtracting, on the cash balance on the books, we're subtracting 45 instead of adding it, and vice versa for the 540.
Can you guys see Greer Food Store on my screen?
Yeah, the Word document, we can see it.
Yeah, okay. So let's put up the solution. Okay. 40. I don't remember why it said that, Yelena. Let's see. Okay. Error on check, this one?
Yes.
Okay. And let's take a look at this. And I think I have this. It's the same one, 11,951. No, it's a different one. Balance per books 905, balance per bank. That's a pretty big one, big difference, right? 905. Okay, this is a different problem. And we'll come back here. Let me pull up a blank Excel worksheet and I'll just. So something I really, really need you guys to embrace is, and I'm gonna put this here. And I know I talked about it a little excessively, but it's really important that you get this. So you have vendors and suppliers. You have the company, and the company is the one we're doing the books for. And then you have customers. And you are in these bank recon questions, you are going to have the word check used in reference to suppliers, and you're going to have checks used in reference to customers paying us. Okay. And you're going to have to say, is this a customer check? Which means, you know, the company gets it, cash goes up, accounts receivable goes down. Or is it a check the company wrote, which means cash goes down and accounts payable goes down, right? When we pay our suppliers. Okay. So know that accounts payable is going to be used when we pay suppliers, and accounts receivable is going to be used when we get money from our customers. I hope that's not too small there. All right. And just keep those straight. All right. So here we go. So we're going to take this particular situation, which is, here's the company, here's the balance per the books, here's the balance per the bank. That's a massive, massive difference, right? Like 10, almost $11,000 difference. And it's just going to be timing issues. But as we are learning here, it's also going to be an error. Okay. So let's go to the, I don't want that one. There we go. So just with respect to the $45, and we can do more, you know, we can do the full, walk through the full solutions. But just with respect to the $35, we want $45, sorry. That involves an error, okay? So they're not giving you the layout, they're not giving you the bank statement and the list of checks the company wrote. They're just kind of going one at a time here. Okay. So checks written but still outstanding. Checks written in March but still outstanding. Those will be in the same category of outstanding checks. Deposits not recorded. And then here we go, NSF check. And then here we go. The alignment there isn't great. Let's see. Check number 210 was correctly issued and paid by the bank. So that's good. We know we issued it correctly. The customer or whoever we issued, the supplier is happy. but incorrectly listed in the cash payments journal as a payment on account for 549. Okay, so my first question to you is, they've used the word check. And I just said it's for a supplier, okay? How did I know it was for a supplier and not a check from a customer?
Payment on account.
Good. Any other clues here? And that's plenty. That's all you need. So if it's a payment, if everything's from the perspective of the company, so if it's a payment, that means it's a check the company wrote. They are paying something, which means we've got a vendor supplier situation, okay? So now we know that accounts payable is involved. Okay, so let's imagine that journal entry when they issued that check. So it would have been accounts payable, and then it would have been cash. Okay, it would have been 549 because they did it, they made the journal entry incorrectly. Okay, what it should have been is, what it should have been was a debit accounts payable, credit cash, and it should have been 594. Okay. So this is the error here. The accounts are correctly charged, yay. But the dollar amount on the books is incorrect. We credited cash for 549. We should have credited cash for 594. Okay. That's a difference of $45. Okay, does that make sense? So how do we fix it? So this is where we are right now. So how we fix it is we take and add another 45. So now cash total is 549 plus 45, and it's now correctly in total at 594. Accounts payable, same thing. Okay. So that is why the solution, oops, wrong one. Solution. That is why the solution has this 45 there. Okay. So what is it saying? It's saying, and I've got the books on the left side. It's saying I've got to subtract an additional $45 because I didn't record that correctly. So when you have a bank recon, there's certain pieces that are going to be super basic. You're going to see them probably on every bank recon. You're going to see outstanding checks. You're going to see deposits in transit. On the book side, you're going to see service charge or NSF checks, that sort of thing. But then when you get into errors, you really have to take a second and say, and the easiest way for me is to take a second and say, okay, what should it have, what was it, and what should it have been? Okay, so there's another error on this bank statement, right? So let's look at that one. Oh, all right. So the other error is check number 318. Let's see. Here we go. Can you guys see it? It's at number 7. A payment on account, again, that's accounts payable and cash, was incorrectly entered into the bank statement. Let's keep it over here. Let's just do another one over here. Was incorrectly entered into the bank statement cash payments journal and posted to the subledger at 8/24. So this is what they did. Okay. It should have been, now here we go. It should have been 280. Right? So let's just put this over here. So let me just set this up. Okay, so we have an error of $540 there. Okay. So in this case, the journal entry should have been this. We way over deducted cash. So how do we fix it? We're going to add that back. And then our correcting journal entry is going to be 40 and 5. And then when you combine these two together, and I said that wrong, it's backwards. Sorry, guys. Anyway. Then out a credit of 824. And then we subtract the brother of 540 and get the correcting of 284. Okay. So what you're going to see on the bank recon is the incremental correction. Okay. So two different types. And you have two different types of errors, and a debit error and a credit error. Okay. What else? Are you guys comfortable with the bank reconciliation? You want to walk through the full reconciliation? There's another problem here. Let's take a look. Here we go. This one, that's the one I was doing on the other sheet. Okay, have you guys done this one yet? You guys need to do more bank reconciliations? Shoot me a note.
I have a question about this number 5.
Okay.
If I may.
Absolutely.
The receipt amounts on the right-hand side, what do those reflect?
So, you know, part of the challenge with bank recon is they all look different. Okay. So this is showing, this whole thing is saying the cash balance per, I guess, Fagan is this. So we need that number to do a bank recon. The following checks and receipts were recorded for the month of October. This is what happened and what was recorded at the company. This is the company's records we're looking at. Okay. Now we're going to compare these, just like we did with that list of outstanding checks from the homework. We're going to compare these to what the bank says they received in October. Okay. All right. Would you guys like me to walk through the solution on this one, or are you good with it? Let me know. Put it in the chat. I see nothing in the chat. Yes. I got one yes. Any other yeses? Or are you guys good with the solution? Okay, you guys are good. All right. I don't want to waste your time, but I also want to, I think this is a good problem for just, and it's better than the other one because you end up, I honestly think you get more of a full bank reconciliation where you actually have a bank statement that you have to wade through. All right. So let's just start this out. I'm gonna take this here, and I'm gonna do this. I think this is Fagan, yeah. Sure. Okay. Now I'm biased. I like having the books on the right and the bank on the left. You guys can do anything you want. Just label. Remember, you're doing 2 columns for me. One, you're reconciling the bank balance per the statement to any adjustments to an adjusted bank balance. And the other one, you're starting with essentially what the T account for cash says, and then you're making any adjustments that you're reading from the bank statement. So the only adjustments we make on the books is anything in the bank statement that we haven't booked a journal entry for. And then we're gonna need to do journal entries for that, okay? Okay, so the problem gives us this number, 87, the cash balance per the books is 8736.01. So that's what I'm putting up here. Okay. And as far as your bank statement goes, it doesn't have to be in a really strict format. Just make sure you label it so I can read what you're doing. You know, it doesn't have to be that same strict format that I require for the multi-step income statement and the balance sheet, the classified balance sheet. So be sure to study both of those statements and in their proper order and with their proper subtotals, okay? All right, so we're gonna put that up. All right, now I would say jump to the bank balance, just get that started. All right, so do we see the bank balance anywhere in here, guys? Where do you find it? Put it in the chat or call it out for me. Where do we see the bank balance? So the bank is going to tell us this is what you had in the bank at the end of October. How do you know? Where do you find that total? I see that you have it, Yelena, but where do you find it?
On the bank statement on the right-hand side,
Where? Which there's two of them. Which one are you referring to?
balance this statement.
So there's one there. And then on every bank statement, you have a list of checks and deposits. And then you have a running balance by day. And this is kind of abbreviated, but that's how it's presented. Okay. And so there's two spots for it. So you can look at this running balance and just take the last one, or sometimes at the top they'll have it as well. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put that over there. So that gets us started. And now we start working with adjustments. Okay. So what we're essentially doing is we're saying, let's look at all these checks. These are the checks that the company wrote, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, all the way up to 25. Here's the money the company received. Okay. So October 5th, October 21st, October 27th, and October 30th. All right. We're going to compare, since this is a smaller list, we're going to compare it to what's in the bank account. Okay. So here we go. So let's go to the deposits first, because again, there's only 5 deposits listed by the bank, whereas the checks, we've got quite a few to go through. So this first deposit's a little confusing, okay? And there's no real information about it in the problem. So we're just going to assume that was a timing issue from the prior month that has been resolved. Typically, when you do a bank statement, we pull up last month's bank statement and make sure we have anything outstanding cleared. This is our second one, and you can see that cleared. Our third one, and you can see the 941.54 cleared, 808.58 cleared, 967 did not clear. Okay. Maybe they got the money, but they didn't deposit it. Maybe it's still in the company's file cabinet or safe. Right? And then we have a transaction with a special code, and we're going to treat this special code separately. Okay. So let's work on deposits and transits. So these things here are going to be total statement. Okay. All right, so let's start with deposits and transit, and we have 967. And that always goes, deposits in transit always goes on the bank side. How do we know they're deposits in transit? The definition is the company got the money and it's not in the bank statement yet. So we'll hit outstanding checks. So we are done with deposits in transit. Okay. Anything that has a special code we're going to deal with after we've dealt with outstanding checks. Okay. So now we're gonna balance these numbers up. Now let's start with number 14. And again, we don't give us extra information. So we are gonna assume that was an outstanding check from the prior month and now it's clear. And unlike the homework problem, which said, here's the 3 outstanding checks, did they clear? We're gonna assume they're all cleared because the clearing doesn't tell us otherwise. Okay. And let's start with check 17. And you can see they're all out of order, which is kind of annoying. But here it is, 372, and this is where you really need to check the dollar amounts. Same dollar amounts, yay. Check 18, 780, 62, whoops, we have a different amount. Okay, so we got a problem here. And we're gonna come back. As you can see, we have an error. And there's probably going to be information down here about the error, but we'll come back to that. Check 19, 157, so check 20, we don't see it anywhere here. So check 20 is going to be outstanding, and you can see I wrote it with it. So let's put check 20 in here. It did not clear. So maybe I'll highlight that in a different color. So the red one is indicative of an error, and the yellow means it's still outstanding. The bank hasn't received that check yet to cash it, to deduct it from the bank account. These are all checks the company has written in payment of bills. Okay. Check 21, good. Check 22, so there. And a real easy way to make a mistake on these checks is make sure you've looked at all of the checks here. Okay. Check 23, 16, 87 off did not clear. So we're going to mark check 23 here. Check 24, and 21, 30, good. Check 25, good. Now again, we've got extra coded items for NSF, SC, CM, all of those we have to deal with after we've done this basic first step, which is what are the deposits in transit and what are the outstanding checks. So we've now taken care of that. Okay. Now, that's great for the bank side, and we're pretty much done with the bank side because of this. But I want to go on and say, this is number something. You can remember this, right? Just a sec. Yeah, we're done with the bank side. All right. So now we go to the book side. Now, book side is all about looking at that bank statement and saying, is there anything on that statement that is not recorded on the books? Okay. So right now, first off, we know all those special codes were not recorded on the books yet. And so we have to step 1, put it on the bank reconciliation so we can make sure we're reconciled to what's in the bank statement. And anything we put in the book side here, anything in here, we have to do a journal entry for, because we have to get that T account cash correctly stated. So here we go. We have NSF check. We have SC, a service charge from the bank. And we have a CM deposit. Okay. You don't need to memorize credit memos versus debit memos. All you need to look at is the header. This was a deposit into the account for $2,100. So cash went up. And we don't have that on our book. So we got to read the rest of the problem to get the information. Under here, where we have SC and NSF, they're under the check column. So that means the bank deducted that amount. Okay. All right. So let's put this CM in. Let's read further. We say, first off, we have this error. We'll come back to that. Then they talk about NSF checks. Then they talk about the credit memo. And then they talk about the bank service charge. So all of those errors, or not errors, all of those additional transactions, you're given more information in the bottom of the problem. But even if you weren't, you could do it just from here. Okay, so we have a $2,100 deposit, and that is for a note receivable. Note receivable means money coming in from somebody who owes us money, plus interest. So we charge them interest. So I'm showing those as ads here on my bank recon, and I'm going to break it out. I'm going to show the note receivable, 2040, and I'm going to show the interest, just like I'm giving the information. Why am I doing that? So I can prepare the journal entries. Okay. NSF is, these are all subtracted. Guess I can put the titles here. NSF is subtracted. Service charge is subtracted. And now finally, we've got to deal with this error. Okay. So it was correctly written at 708, but on the cash journal, the company's books, the T account, we did a journal entry for 780. So your first question has to be, was it accounts payable or accounts receivable? And because this was a check that the company wrote, it's accounts payable. So we over deducted cash, right? So we have to correct it. Well, I guess I put it under the wrong header. Let's fix that. These are less and these are plus. Okay. So I wrote the check incorrectly. I over deducted 780.62. They should have done it at 708.62. So the difference was we over deducted $72. So we need to add it. So we add it back. And then we're going to make journal entries for all of this. So now let's test what we've done. I don't know if you guys see all those yet. Let's do this. Well, so much for that. Right, now I'm going to add all these numbers. I'm going to take the beginning balance plus, this is on the bank side, and I'm going to subtract my outstanding checks. And I'm going to get 10,643.01. Over here, because I've set it up with negatives and positives, I can just add down. Now, the nice thing about Bank Recon is when you come down to the bottom, you balance, so it's all good, right? So you know it. If you don't balance, I don't want you guys having a panic attack in the middle of the exam. Please don't. Do as much of this as you can. Every little bit could help you. A lot of times you might be off one number and you don't balance, but I always give you guys partial credit. So please don't give up on that. All right. So now, like I said, everything on this side has to be adjusted to the cash account. So I'm going to take these out. So anytime you see plus, that's going to be a debit to cash, a debit to cash, then a debit to cash. Anytime you see a minus, that's going to be a credit and credit. Okay. All right. So step 1, do the bank reconciliation. Step 2, do the journal entries for the book side, all for cash. So we know the dollar amount, 2040, 2040 plus 60. We're just lifting this right off the bank reconciliation. And then here it's 230, 30, and here it's 35. That's a huge fee. All right. So you're almost there. Now you just need to say, what is the other half of this journal entry? And here's where we have to kind of go back and read the problem. This was for the collection of a note receivable. So that's what we're gonna put there, note receivable. And then it said plus interest. So in these bank reconciliation problems, it's either gonna be interest expense or interest revenue or interest income. So in this case, our account went up, so it's interest revenue. If it were a note receivable and the bank charged us a service charge for handling the note, we debit service charge expense. $72, let's come back to that. An NSF check means the customer paid us, we deposited, it increased our bank account, and then when it cleared the customer's bank account, it bounced back. So the bank, our bank is saying, no, that check was no good, they didn't have enough funds, not sufficient funds. So we deducted. So we're gonna put it right back into accounts receivable. And then we're gonna have to call up that customer and say, hey, your check was no good, now you have to pay with a cashier's check. Or something that's more stable. Service charge, when we account this chapter to service charge expense. Okay, so that clears most of those. Now we're gonna go to that $72 and we're gonna leave the additional information. Check number 18 is correctly written. When we write checks, the accounts receivable or accounts payable, it's gonna be accounts payable. So that's where that goes. When we do these adjusting journal entries, always start with cash. Did cash go up? Like these three, debit, debit, debit. And then down here, cash goes down and it's credit. Okay. Try to get, you will be tested on accounts on the bank reconciliation, so be sure you understand as many pieces and all of the pieces as you can. Because it's each, while it's a lot of work, it's actually, it makes sense when you work with it for a while. So any questions about this one? Any other questions about the practice exam or anything else?
I had a quick question about the last, I believe it was number 36. And we don't have to go through it. It's just a technical question. It looks like we're dividing by 360.
Oh, that's a good question. I saw that in the chat. Thank you for remembering that.
Shouldn't it be 365?
Oh, I'm just gonna apologize now. You can use either, Yelena. In the old days, pre-calculator days, it was acceptable to divide by 360 because it was easier.
Okay.
That habit has stayed with textbooks. I wish they dropped it. We all have really good calculators now. But you can do 360 or 365 and they're both acceptable for homework problems. In the real world, nobody uses 360. We all have calculators.
So on the test, you want us to use 365 or 360?
Either one, because your book is either one. Okay.
Okay.
I prefer 365 because it's more accurate,
Mm-hmm.
but you will not be marked down. As long as we have textbooks that still hang on to that.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Anything else on the exam? So I want to make sure you guys have, you have quite a bit of time between now and the final. So there are a lot of journal entries we've learned this chapter. We've learned the basic journal entries. We've learned adjusting, closing. We've learned perpetual. We've learned periodic. Journal entries. This is periodic for LIFO, FIFO. And remember, gross margin is gross margin. How do we calculate gross margin? Sales minus cost of goods sold equals gross margin. And it's going to change with depending on what inventory method you use, because with FIFO and LIFO and average cost, you're coming up with different cost of goods sold. When you do a percent, I want to see 2 decimal points. Financial statements being really strong in your multi-step income statement, the classified balance sheet. adjustment, that's chapter 4, that's 7 adjusting journal entries, and of course the bank. And then the bank, recon correcting journal entries. So if you think about number of journal entries, let's just, and I have begged you guys to just make flashcards of all the journal entries. So in chapter 3, we had 13 journal entries. In chapter 4, we had 7 sample adjusting journal entries, as well as 4 closing journal entries. In chapter 5, we had 7 perpetual journal entries. In the appendix for chapter 5, we had another 7 journal entries. And the 7, remember, were purchase transactions, purchase returns, and payment of the bill, sales transactions, sales returns, and then customer payment. Chapter 6, we had no journal entries. I'm sure you guys are thrilled with that. In chapter 7, we have about 4 to 5 correcting journal entries. So if we add those up, you guys need to know about 43 basic journal entries. And then remember, where I have done prepaid insurance, you could also have prepaid work. So there's other ones as well. So, okay. I will see you guys later. I will see you guys on Tuesday. I'll be online on Monday. Send me an email if you have other questions. Okay, I'll see you guys later.
Thank you, bye.
Bye-bye. I will post this video.